Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Alfredo Ramirez from Prosal, CMO and co-founder there with them. How are you doing today, Alfredo?
I'm doing great, Ernesto. How are you?
I'm doing great to get a chance to have Prosal here on our Pathmonk Presents episode. And well, let's give why our listeners are tuning in. In your own words, can you tell us a little bit more about what it's all about?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be talking about Prosal. It's an incredible time for us. We are a startup that helps businesses unlock predictable revenue through requests for proposals, or RFPs, as they're affectionately known. We RFPs, if you're not familiar with them, they are documents that essentially state a project and help people to hire an agency or consultant for a specific effort. Usually, those are pretty big projects, long-term efforts. But these RFPs, they're tough to find, they're extremely difficult to qualify, and they essentially turn into a really great lead if they are right for you. So we take what can be an hours long process of reviewing hundreds of RFP pages into really just a few minutes so that you know what leads to focus on.
That's great to hear. And so then that way our listeners could get a good understanding of Prosal. And what would you say then is that key problem that you guys like to solve for clients?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, RFPs, they're just absolutely difficult to find. They're all over the place. Tons of different organizations use them, from municipalities, governments, nonprofits, even private companies issue them. If you haven't heard of RFPs before, check them out. You'll find that it is a $13 trillion international market. There are billions of dollars spent in the US alone by non-governmental institutions. And there's trillions of dollars spent by the US government and by state and local municipalities that are just hiring for different projects. You know, if you that road that you're seeing built, the new school that's being constructed, the basketball court in that school, the website for your local library, all of that tends to go through an RFP. And so we'll take those opportunities that are often scattered throughout. We find them, we vet them and verify them, make sure that they are appropriate leads. There's no incumbent, that there is a true opportunity there, because we all know kind of the ins and outs and under the table handlings that sometimes go with hiring and maybe having a friend in the process. We are your friend, and we tell you, hey, this is a legitimate opportunity. This is right for you, and you're well positioned for it. And we give you all the resources so you can go after that opportunity.
That's great to hear. Awesome. And so then, is there a certain type of vertical segment? Is there an ideal ICP then for Prosal?
Yes. So we get a ton of people interested in Prosal, but really the communities that we work best with are those US based consulting agencies, professional services businesses with between 11 to 50 employees who specialize in a few different services. They include web development and design, marketing, branding, communications, and strategic planning. And at our core, what these people love about Prosal is that we prospects who are buying what they are selling. We work best really with people who are RFP pros, people who know the RFP process, who've seen it before. But we've also worked with people who have never even heard about the RFP before. And they come in and they learn about the RFP when they join Prosal, and they're so surprised to find that winning just one contract can be an absolute game changer for your business.
Definitely. All right. Great to hear that from you. And so that way, how would then somebody usually find out about Prosal? Is there a top client acquisition channel for you guys?
Yeah, so our top client acquisition channel has been email. It can be surprising to hear when I'm sure all the business people that are listening to this can go check out their inbox and their spam and see it flooded with a bunch of strangers trying to hit them up about something promising 10x returns on whatever it is that they're trying to sell. We do things a little bit differently. We actually are very personalized in our approach and research the people who we're reaching out to before we even reach out to them, and match them to an opportunity on our site. And specifically to an opportunity that hasn't gotten a lot of interest. So we actually give them a legitimate chance at bat at winning a new client right when they first join. That's our number one approach. We see that convert on cold outreach at about 5%, although I've seen some groups and targets convert at 25% on first outreach. It's an absolute awesome channel for us.
Definitely, that's really high. So kudos to you for making it work like that. Awesome, great. And so that way, our listeners who are tuned in could go ahead and visit you. You could always check them out at prosal.io. What role then does the website play for client acquisition, Alfredo?
Website is huge. We are a web application. You can't download us on the App Store. You can't find us in a brick and mortar place. We live on the internet on www.prosal.io, which is soon to be prosal.com come April when we launch Prosal 2.0. But the website is huge for us. It's where the experience begins and ends. We communicate with our community through email a ton. We also have a strong Slack community, but all the opportunities, the qualification, your history, your performance, all of that information is stored on the website, and we continually refine and optimize your experience based on how you're using the platform and what information you are sharing with the potential lead and how you are tracking that lead so that we can deliver better opportunities that are a better match for you based on prior experience and based on your preferences.
Yeah, okay, awesome. And as far as some website lead generation, then, is there any tools or tips that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, we use a ton of tests a ton of tools. But everything that I always say for any tool is test. Any strategy is test. I test everything. Whatever I tested 6 months ago, I don't hold to be true today. I retest it. I want to make sure that it's still true today. At least for the website, Crazy Egg is one of my favorite platforms that I use for A/B testing. It also has snapshots, recording, error flagging, and some survey functionality. It's been my favorite tool that I found out about in the last few months that I use at least weekly. Before that, we were using Hotjar. It's a great tool as well that gave us heat maps and recordings about how our website was being used, and has actually informed a lot of design thinking that when we are considering new features or where to even place new features. So I think those are probably the two biggest tools that are useful for us in our website experience. I mean, we have a ton of things connected to our website that are giving us tips and ideas about what to do, but those are the top two ones that we use. And then when it comes to actual tips, things to do, I mean, I mentioned test earlier. I think the other thing that I often have to remind myself is to always consider the user and minimize the steps to where you want them to go. For us, we went through this process. We relearned this process recently when we redesigned our sign-up flow, and we just added like 2 extra fields so that we could get a little bit more information off the bat rather than putting it in the profile, asking for it in the sign-up flow so that we can personalize the experience a little bit more. And we saw a huge drop-off rate when it came to sign-up. So we had to quickly revert back to our old sign-up flow. And so I think one of the things that I always constantly battle is, how can I make this a better experience for you without making this too intrusive, without making this something too burdensome for you to engage in? And ultimately, I want to keep our client, our customer top of mind and give them the experience that they deserve without making it too difficult for them to tell us how they want that experience in the first place.
Definitely. Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much for those methods and tips. Thank you so much for that. And well, let's talk about you as a leader. Let's switch gears a little bit. And let's, you being the CMO there, co-founder, what are some key tasks you'd like to focus on your day-to-day work?
It's been weird because the last few months, we've just finished our raise in December. So our CEO has just made it back into the company and has been actively a part of the day-to-day operations. So for me, it's felt like the last few months have been splitting heads between operations and marketing. So it feels like I've been COO and CMO. And so thankfully, over the last few weeks, just right now, and even this last week, we've been doing a lot of planning so I can get back to the core of what my mission is, which is to grow the company and to make sure we're getting the right people that can benefit from what we offer. And so that day-to-day for me is getting back to basics and looking at the channels, experimenting with messaging, talking to our customers. That's probably the biggest thing that I do and I advocate always is talk to your customers, talk to the people that use your platform or that are buying what you sell. Listen to what their problems are. Listen to how they talk about how they use your platform. Listen to the language that they use when they're talking about their issues and their solutions, and look past what it is that they tell you they need. If they tell you they want to get something, more quickly, it might not mean delivering something at that fast, but it might be delivering something where they need it rather than the speed at which you're delivering it. So that's one of the things that I always try to do is when I talk to users on platform is how can I really take what you are telling me and integrate it in a way that is innovative and meets what your actual need is rather than what you say your want is. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I do and I'm thinking out on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, the rest of the time I'm managing a team. So we've been thankful that we've grown our team now I have a team of 7 individuals scattered all around the world. I check in with them daily. Quick stand-up, 15 minutes, in addition to a weekly stand-up that's a little more in depth. But every day we know what everyone is doing. Everyone knows what the other person is doing. And if anyone needs support, we find out at the beginning of the day so that nothing gets left behind, nothing falls off track. We're constantly on top of one another so that we can say, hey, what do you need help with? What am I blocking? How can we be supportive of one another so we can accomplish the goals that we've set out for ourselves this day, this week, this month, or this quarter?
Definitely important. I mean, it sounds like you have a full plate there on your hands, especially with that COO and CMO and everything and being a leader there. So kudos to you being able to handle all that. So great stuff there, Alfredo. And I mean, there is a lot of overwhelming, information out there with marketing. I mean, it's evolved over the past years, especially now with AI in the mix. But where do you usually stay up to date with all that information? Is there a specific channel that you like to go through?
Yeah, so I'm a big email guy and I'm a big podcast guy. So other than the Pathmark podcast, which is a great podcast, other podcasts that I listen to a ton, How I Built This with Guy Raz, amazing podcast that just goes through founder stories. So you get to see the full gamut of the founder's story. And they not only go through marketing, they go through operations and raising, and the hard parts of being a business owner and a founder. In addition to that, Masters of Scale is a really great one with Reid Hoffman. He's from LinkedIn and PayPal and VC today, but his podcast is absolutely spectacular for very similarly listening to that founder story and narrowing in on specific elements of the founder story. When you talk about how AI is being used for marketing or how churn affects business or how you decide prioritization when you're getting mixed signals about something. I think that is those are 2 amazing podcasts to listen to. And then 2 newsletters that I really do love and I always recommend to folks. The NASDAQ Center for Entrepreneurship, they have a ton of amazing resources. They're constantly putting on webinars. They share really smart people, and they're all the smart people that lead those webinars and are featured on there are always willing to speak to readers and to listeners. I know because I've reached out to them and they've coached me. They've given me invaluable advice. And then Demand Curb's growth newsletter. That's an awesome one that I just started following, but really gets into like the nitty gritty details of what is marketing, how do you advance marketing efforts, and really get to offer some practical tips and advice that anyone from a marketing assistant to a CMO can implement into their day-to-day.
Definitely. All right. Awesome that to hear that, and some great, ways in order for everybody to get involved in getting a little bit more of a marketing strategy there. Thank you so much. And let's jump into our next section here, Alfredo, which is our rapid fire question rounds. Are you ready for them?
Hit me with the rapid fire.
All right. First off, then, what is the last book that you read?
So I'm about to finish a book, so I don't know if this counts. I alternate between fiction and nonfiction. Last book that I actually read, I finished a few weeks ago, was 1984. I'd never read it, so I wanted to read that one. But that was my fiction. But the nonfiction that I'm about to finish reading, and I really recommend to anyone listening, is Creativity Inc. It's the story of Pixar. If you know Pixar, we all love Toy Story. We all love Buzz Lightyear and Woody. It is by one of the founders of Pixar, Edwin Catmull, along with Amy Wallace, really two awesome individuals who tell the story of Pixar. And for me, learning that Pixar was not just a studio, it was a startup. And talking about how Steve Jobs ran the place, how they created the first animated feature film, how they've continued to innovate in the space beyond that first feature film. And it's just a fascinating story with a ton of insights for anyone that is thinking about running their own business or is currently running their own business.
Definitely. Pixar, like everybody knows it, right? It's a cultural book, I believe, organizational. So great read there as well. Next up is, what is one single thing that Prosal is focused on the moment the most?
One thing Prosal's focused on today, RFPs. We're all about RFPs. You want RFPs, you're thinking about RFPs, you have any curiosity about RFPs, Prosal's got that answer for you.
There you guys said, all right, perfect. Next up is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
Give me some time to be creative. You know, we measure everything. Everything is data driven. Everything is about do the next thing. And I consider myself to be a good writer, but I need the time to be a good writer so that I don't rely on ChatGPT to take over my writing job. So I think if there are no boundaries and I could just give myself time to let technology own something else, but give me back my space to be creative and to be in one with my inner artist.
All right, great to hear that. Next is, if there's one repetitive task that you could automate, what would that be?
Replying to emails. They're the bane of my existence.
I believe for everyone, right? I mean, especially coming off a weekend on a Monday, just got a couple of you. Definitely. And lastly, Alfredo, I mean, you have a lot of experience already within the marketing world, but what is that one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
Don't forget why you're doing it. You know, we all have our reason why we got into this, into our role, into our job. Maybe it was a degree, maybe it was because someone offered it. But there was something that intrigued you about it. There was something attractive about it. You were doing it for somebody. Maybe it was a mission or a calling, or you just had this aspiration to be somebody that you're not today. Don't let go of that. Keep that in your inner sanctum of yourself. Remember that at all times so that you can keep that as a continuous source of inspiration to remind you why you're doing what you do when times are down, and to take you even higher when things go up and everything is looking upward.
Definitely. All right. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for that advice. And we are coming to the end of the show here, Alfredo, but I do want to give you the last word. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about Prosal?
RFPs, man. Requests for proposals. We turn an RFP into a proposal. We simplify opportunities, and you got to get your next piece of business off of Prosal.
There, you guys heard it. To our listeners, check them out at prosal.io, soon to be prosal.com 2.0 there. And Alfredo, thank you so much for being on with us in today's episode. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to our next episode at PathMonk Presents. Thanks a lot, Alfredo.
Thank you, Ernesto.